start, go. It happens.
Welcome back to the Performance-Pinewood speed tip series of videos. If you're interested more in what we talk about and you want to see all our speed tips, check out our Facebook page or go to performance-pinewood.com. It's all there. In this video, I'm Jim, by the way.
I'm Todd.
And in this video, we're going to talk basically the general area of weight. We're going to talk about making sure your car weighs enough, being prepared to adjust that weight, and ultimately that weight placement and how all those things play into performance.
Yeah.
You want to talk about
sure, yeah.
making weight?
This is kind of a three for one video here. So the first thing, and we touched a little bit on it in our first video on the speed tip series, was what's your weight limit for your race, and you want to get as close to that limit as you possibly can. So usually it's 5 ounces is your limit. You want to get as much weight in the car as you possibly can to get to that 5 ounces without going over. You don't want to be the guy that shows up and you're at 5.1 or 5.2 or gal, and you're taking a knife to your car and you're cutting chunks out of your car. I mean, how many times have we seen somebody show up or even us? We in our early years,
we've been there in some of our first derbies. What Todd's alluding to is somebody shows up with their car and like I said, it weighs 5.1 or some number like that, and we've experienced it. It's a tough deal, and at the end of the day, the weights that have been out of the car, if you take one out, you're probably too far the other way. You get much below 4.95, you probably have a non-competitive car. And to get that 0.1 off of there by removing wood is very difficult. I've seen folks take a drill or a knife. What we found, or what we encourage folks to do, is to weight the car with the tungsten cubes to get you close to that 4.9 area, and then to complete the weighting of the car with tungsten putty. And the neat thing about the putty is you get a small piece of it and you load it in the car, and you know where it is. You get on we would encourage you to use your own scale to know where you're at. That will save you a lot of time and heartache at your derby. But say their scale's slightly different than yours and you're over. If you have access to this tungsten putty and you're able to clip a little piece off, or if for some reason you're way short, you can add some in.
For sure. And that's the best way to make certainly any adjustments you got. So when you're looking at your car design, usually the cars that have a big full block, lots of pine, are the ones that run into more trouble, because then they've added lead or they've added tungsten or they've added something to it, and there's just a lot there. So as Jim said, if you got a scale, put the block on, put the weights on, put the wheels, put the axles, and then factor in a little bit too for paint, because you're going to gain a little weight with paint, decals, whatever else you're putting on there. But make sure you know where you got to be, where you need to end up, because if you get to the day of the race and you're over, it's way harder to correct it when you get there versus just kind of knowing where you're at on the front end.
Yep, and like I said, that final tenth of an ounce, or that last little range, you want to weight that with the putty, if at all can, because then you have that adjustability built into the car, and you're able, if you have to make a race day adjustment, hopefully you're good, and you can go relax and enjoy your derby. But if you need to make that adjustment, I know in my latter derbies I would usually bring an X-Acto knife with, something I can cut a little piece of this off real quickly through the weight pocket and be good to go.
Other side of the fence on this too, though, we talked a little bit about your maximum weight and getting up as close to your maximum weight as possible. And the reason for that, and we go into this in a little more depth in some of our other videos, and we've got some more detailed weight placement videos and really fine-tuning videos coming up, is the speed. That's your engine, that's your horsepower. What about people that come in at 3.5 or 4 ounces of weight on the block? They've got a really thin block, they've taken a lot of weight out.
Yeah, some people get really focused on the car's design, and I've seen some outstandingly cool Pinewood Derby cars, and those cars can be fast, but at the end of the day, they've taken away a lot of wood, and say they didn't have a scale, and they're down at 4 ounces or even under. They're handicapped. That is It's
4-cylinder versus a V8, man.
You got it. You got it. You have a sports car versus you know, an econo car. It isn't going to happen. The physics are way too much on the guy's side or gal's side that are at that, almost at that 5 ounces.
Absolutely.
You know, and in that same vein, the placement of the weight is, and we've covered this in other videos, so we'll hit it real briefly here. But the placement of the weight needs to go in the back of the car.
Yeah. That's going to drive you down that track. The physics of it is the acceleration down.
Yeah. The further something falls, the fastest it goes. It's simple physics. There are some handling tips that go with a Pinewood Derby car. In a nutshell, don't load more than 2 ounces behind the rear axle, and you'll be fine.
You'll get what we fondly refer to as the death wiggle.
Yes, you make an ill handling car. But yeah, you want to load that weight in the rear. This will give you the most oomph.
Yes.
And you want to end up, you know, at that 4.95 or above. You know, if you can hit it at exactly 5, you know, good for you. I've weighed in at several derbies at 4.99, 4.97, and had great performance out of my cars.
Absolutely. And you don't have to have a really thin block to have a fast block.
No.
But if you do, the nice thing about some of these thinner designs is that you can place the weight to maximize that acceleration. You get just a little more out of it if you're doing it that way.
You bet. We could talk a little bit about car design, but at the end of the day, being able to control the weight with tungsten cubes or tungsten putty or some other means like that, the more of that weight you use, probably the odds are your car is going to be quicker. Less wood is better than more.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, and you know, in a typical Scout Derby, there's a lot of room for design interpretation. You can build some very cool cars that still go very fast. It doesn't have to be something like this. It can be something much cooler.
Absolutely. We'll do some videos on that too, some cool car designs down the way. But in a nutshell, make sure you know what your weight has to be, get as close to it as possible. Make sure you know where you're placing that weight to maximize your acceleration. Be ready to make adjustments if you have to, and try to weigh it ahead of time if you can. So
absolutely, and you can look for some future videos coming up from us. This is a Performance-Pinewood 3 on the tree extreme block with the weight pockets cut with a router. But we're gonna make a video that goes fairly in depth how you can cut weight pockets with any number of power tools.
Or if you don't have power tools,
hand tools. We're almost going to go down the minimum tool route. It should be an interesting video. We encourage you to stick around and check that one out when it shows up.
Absolutely, we're going to do some fun builds this year.
You bet.
All right, thank you.
See you on race day.